Someone someone wrote to me that um, the reception on these Zoom meetings was faulty at times, and the idea that you could get the internet to be perfect all the time is like thinking you can get life perfect all the time. So if you just you think about the irritation of just this minor irritation of the sound quality being wonky, right? But isn't that all of life? Isn't all of life somewhat wonky? And yet, a person writes to me with the expectation that somehow, this broadcast is going to be perfect, like we're NBC or something. But it's true, isn't it? We kind of expect life to not be wonky, and yet all of my 73 years as a human being, it's always been wonky. It's been good wonky, it's been bad wonky, but that and so we have these expectations of life being a certain way, and of course, a lot of times fulfills our expectations, but oftentimes not. And whose fault is that? Whoever designed this, they should have designed it according to my desire patterns. Sorry, it doesn't work that way, and we all know that. We all know that, and yet we sometimes forget that this life is wonky. Reception is bad, and as we get older, guess what? Reception is going to get even worse, and we face all kinds of aches and pains. So right now, I've got this weird ache in my left elbow. No big deal, and I just think to myself, well, it's going to get worse, Viradhammo. and I take care of it and so on, but just the awareness of a wonky elbow is like this. And it's such a relief. It's such a relief to just to find refuge within imperfection, because you cannot find perfection in imperfection. And that's what the Buddha was teaching about our physical, emotional existence is imperfect. We all know that, and yet somehow, I think the problem is that we don't have refuge oftentimes. It's not that we're stupid and we don't understand that life is limited and has its challenges, but if we don't have refuge, then it's just such a bad joke, isn't it? But if we have refuge, if we have refuge, and refuge isn't a doctrinal thing. It's not Buddhist per se, but we use language of Buddhism because that's our tradition. But refuge or knowing or witnessing or awareness of change, this is very, very profound, because it does give you not just hope, because it's not about the future. It's not like a hopeful thing. It's a remembering thing, I would say. It's something you remember. And then you return to, yeah, pain is this way. And then there's the pain, yeah, but there's the witnessing. And the more you do that, there's this tremendous sense of, I think, both confidence and nowhere to go, nothing to become. And that's really lovely. It's really, really lovely. And yet you can do things. You can serve and create and enjoy, but it's not a necessity. It's kind of a lovely add-on. So the way I talk about this is quite simple. I know when I was first introduced to meditation, Ajahn Chah, he never did much like with techniques. He never kind of had fancy, I tried fancy techniques myself, but it was always a sense of me doing something to become something. Okay, now I've got it. I just count my breaths, and I count my breaths backwards, and I and I get these complex meditation techniques that in the end they always sort of became inadequate, because it was so much about me doing something to become something or get rid of something. Whereas the awakened mind, this is not a becoming; it's a remembering, and not remembering in terms of narrative. What did I do yesterday? Not that kind of remembering. It's the remembering of awakening. I know that I know. And the language becomes very, very simple, very, very direct. And it can sound like I'm a simpleton, right? It's kind of tautology. I know that you know, or life is like this. But it is profound when you can get there, and 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 you get there when you just let go of thinking, don't you? Like I listen now. I let go of thought. I let go of past and future. I let go of becoming. And there it is. It's silence. Beautiful. And then I can feel pain within that. Oh, yeah. Or I can have a thought about, oh, I have to go to town tomorrow or something like that. And that can come and go. Those are just the way life is. So what is, like for you, does the word refuge, does it have meaning? It took me a long time to actually get a sense of refuge, what that actually meant. And yet, in Buddhism, that's the first thing you do. You take refuge. In the beginning, for me, it was a kind of doctrinal thing, or historical, or like iconography and such like. But now, more and more, I do see that first of all, that the refuge in Buddha is this awakened mind. It's not doctrinal. I can say this and not use the word Buddha. That's the word we use because it means awake. So certainly the word Buddha has a historical significance and cultural significance, but it has an existential possibility, awake mind. So you use whatever word you want, really, but what is that? What does that point to? And then Dharma is the way things are, the truth. So there's the truth of there's the truth of this moment. It's like this. That's truth. I can describe it as good, better, and different, but that's secondary. Primarily, it's suchness. It's like this, and that combination of awakeness to this is so it's so very, very direct that it sounds too simple. There must be more to this. And so the thinking mind tries to analyze and get something. The desire mind tries to get rid of and become. And yet, if you just do that, then there it is. There's the silence, the witnessing, the knowing. And then we get caught up. Our life catches hold of us and we get over stressed about something or whatever it might be. But always there's this interruption, isn't there? Interruption to the patterns of worry, or the interruption to the patterns of fascination or exaltation, whatever. Somehow your mind does wake up because that's always there. That's always there. When we come into the doorway, come to the threshold, see the space, that kind of thing. So we'll do another session. I'll just keep seeding it with these ideas. If you have techniques, use them, obviously. So you might have mantras, or you might have just techniques of perception where you, like the Dalai Lama's perception, which was floating around the internet the other day, because it was his 85th birthday on the 6th of July, I think it was. He said, be optimistic, it feels better. Well, that's great. It's not like a philosophy, is it? It just feels better to be optimistic. Okay, I'll go for that. So you can use perceptions, can't you? Just perceptions that you. So it's like a skillful use of perception, a skillful use of thought, rather than just being driven by perceptions of habit, which sometimes are not so skillful. That's lovely, isn't it? Just put that on your wall. Be optimistic. It feels better. I was using that all week. Not that I'm a pessimist, right? But just, yeah, I'll go with that. I'll use that. And that's just using perception and language intelligently, wisely. And that brings you to a state of awakeness.